गंधार्विक गिरिधारी शिष्य राधा विनोद बिहारी जू की जाय। श्री गोविंद गोपीनाथ मरन मोहन जू की जाय। नितिल प्रविष्ट विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शतश्मार्ट शिल भक्ति वेदांत नारायण गोसाई महाराज शिल गुरुदेव की जाय। नितिल प्रविष्ट विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शतश्मार्ट शिल भक्ति वेदांत वामन गोसाई महाराज की जाय। नितिल प्रविष्ट विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शतश्मार्ट शिल भक्ति वेदांत स्वामी महाराज शिल प्रभुपाद की जाय। नितिल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शतश्मार्ट शिल भक्ति प्रज्ञान केशव गोसाई महाराज की जाय। नितिल प्रविष्टम विष्णुपाद अष्टोत्तर शतश्मार्ट शिल भक्ति सिद्धांत सरस्वती गोसाई प्रभुपाद की जाय। नितिल प्रविष्ट महाभागवत शिल गोक्षरस बाबूजी महाराज की जाय। नितिल प्रविष्ट शिल सच्चिदानंद भक्ति विनोद ठाकुर की जाय। नितिल प्रविष्ट वैष्णव सार्वभौम शिल जगन्नाथ दास बाबूजी महाराज की जाय। श्री रूपनु गौरी गुरु वर्ग की। श्री रूप सनातन भट्ट रघुनाथ श्री जीव गोपाल भट्टदास रघुनाथ शारद गोसाई प्रभु की जाय। श्री स्वरूप दामोदर राय रामानंदारी श्री गौर प्रसाद वृंद की जाय। नाम चैतन्य हरिदास ठाकुर की जाय। प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जाय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल ब्रज मंडल मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जाय। सर्व अभिष्ट प्रदत्त गिरिराज महाराज की जय। श्री राधा कुंद श्याम कुंद की जय। श्री मुन देवी गंगा देवी की जय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय। श्री भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री पूर्णमासी योगमाय की जय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्रीनिताय गौर श्री उत्पन्न एकादशी तिथि की जय। तिथि पालन करी भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री नरहरि सरकार की जय। तदीय शुभ तिरुभाव तिथि की जय। श्री ग्रंथराज श्रीमद्-भागवतम की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्रीनिताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। Let me share my screen. Dandavat pranams Rupa Manjari Didi, Indira Mataji, Ganga Didi, Haribo. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Radhikaya Priyatmane Shri Śrīmad-Bhakti Vedanta Narayaniti Namine. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine. Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaya Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tarbhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yang Pravrajantam Anupetam Apeta Krityang Dvaipayano Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putreti Tanmayataya Taravo Bhinedu Stang Sarva Bhuta Hridaya Munimanatosmi Narayanam Namaskritya Narang Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayet Shrinvatang Svakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridantasto Yabhadrani Vidhunoti Suhritsatam Nashta Prayeshvabhadreshu Nitang Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavatyuttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naishtaki Tavai Vasmi Na Jivami Tvaya Vina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tvang Nayamang Charanantikam Bhaktya Vihina Aparadha Lakshai Kshiptashtakama Ditarangamadhe Kripa mai tvam sharanam prapanna vrinde namaste charana ravindam. Bhaja Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Let me see all who's there. Where is it? Haribo, Prajumna Prabhu, and Mantra Murti Mataji. Is it very cold? It's not so bad. Guess more for comfort rather than necessity. Alright. So I'm in the most comfortable reading situation I've been in yet. On a big comfy couch. Okay, so we read the perfect society, the four social classes. Yesterday I'll just read from this. So the first 10 chapters of the 7th canto describe the pure inclination arising from unalloyed bhakti unmixed with material modes. The last 5 chapters describe the excellence of varnashram for material sustenance. They describe Nishkam Karma Yoga as the cause of inclinations for bhakti mixed with material modes. In this chapter, Narad Muni describes the duties of the normal varnas, the duties of women, and mixed varnas. So then Yudhishthir further inquires from Narad Muni. After hearing about Prahlad's glorious character adored by great devotees, King Yudhishthir again inquired from Narad Muni with joy. He wanted to hear about 2 topics. One is Sanatan Dharma, or the eternal religion of human beings, that is Bhakti Yoga, and Varnashram Dharma, or the social and spiritual duties of humans. Note, Sanatana means that which remains after the result is achieved. It refers to Bhakti Yoga, which is not given up even after achieving prema. Interesting. Sanatana means that which remains after the result is achieved. Never heard that before. Yudhishthir glorifies Narad Muni. Because of your austerities and mystic yoga, you are considered as the best of Brahma sons. No one knows better than you all the principles of religious life and how to execute devotional service. Then Narad Muni explains the principles of Sanatan Dharma. He says, offering obeisances to Lord Krishna, the protector of Dharma, I will first explain the principles of Sanatan Dharma, which I have heard from Narayan. Lord Narayan appeared along with Nara in this world, through Murti and Dharma. Even now, he is executing austerities at Badarikashram. Complete satisfaction by Hari Bhakti. The Supreme Lord is the root of all religious principles. Lord Hari is the essence of all Vedic knowledge. On the basis of this religious principle, everything is satisfied, O king. This is similar to the verse in Savai Pungsam Paro Dharmo in Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam in the 1st canto. Note, the Lord is the cause and proof of Dharma, since he is the essence of the Vedas. This means that without devotion to him, Dharma cannot succeed. Satisfaction doesn't appear by bhakti mixed with karma, as much as it, Satisfaction doesn't appear by bhakti mixed with karma as much as it is attained by pure bhakti. And dharma without bhakti should not be accepted. So now Narad answers the first question of Yudhishthir on Sanatan Dharma, which we read about. Yeah. Right, he asked 2 questions. One was he wanted to know about Sanatan Dharma and Varnashram Dharma. So Now we're hearing about Sanatana Dharma. These are the 30 qualities by which one can satisfy the Supreme Lord. First is truthfulness, second is mercy, 3 austerity, 4 cleanliness, 5 tolerance, 6 discrimination, 7 and 8 is mind and sense control, 9 is nonviolence, 10 celibacy, 11 charity, 12 reading of scripture, 13 simplicity, 14 satisfaction, 15 seeing the equipoised saints, 16 gradually taking leave of unnecessary engagements, 17 observing the futility of unnecessary acts of humanity, 18 silence and gravity, 19 researching one's own self, 20 distributing food equally to all living entities as it is befitting, as much as they deserve. 21 seeing every soul as a part of the Supreme Lord. Wait 1 second. Seeing every soul as a part of the Supreme Lord, oneself or a devata. 22. Hearing about the Lord. 23. Chanting about him. 24. Remembering devotees. 25. Service. 26. Worship. 27. Obeisances. 28. Becoming a servant. 29. Becoming a friend. And 30. Surrendering one's whole self. These 30 qualifications must be acquired in the human life. By that, one can satisfy the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Note: the first 21 items in the above list are assistants in bhakti. The last nine items are the core practices of direct devotional service. The first, So, having answered the first question of Yudhishthira about Sanatana Dharma, Narad Muni will now answer his second question about Varnashram Dharma. This answer starts from the next verse and continues to the end of the 7th canto. So the 4 Varnas are 4 castes. Occupational duties of the 4 Varnas. The Dvijas, the twice-born, are those who perform the samskars, the reformatory ceremonies with mantras. Such Brahmins, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, purified by family traditions and behavior, should worship the Lord, study the Vedas, give charity, and follow the principles of the 4 ashrams, brahmacārya, grahastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas. Note: in the varnashram system, the first ceremony for purification is garbhadhan, which is performed with mantras at the time of sex for propagating a good child. One who uses sex life not for sensual pleasures, but only to beget good children, is also accepted as a brahmacāri. Interesting. Restraint in sex is possible only when trained in the above-mentioned 30 qualities. Brahmins have 6 occupational duties: worshipping Krishna and teaching others to worship, studying the Vedas and teaching others, accepting charity and giving charity. Kshatriyas should not accept charity, but they may perform the other 5 duties of Brahmins. A Kshatriya is not allowed to levy taxes on Brahmins, but he may make his livelihood by levying taxes and fines upon his other subjects. Vaishyas, the mercantile community, should follow the directions of Brahmins and do agriculture, trade, and cow protection. Shudras accept a master from a higher social order and serve him to earn livelihood. The 4 alternative duties for Brahmins, from lowest to highest. Varta, which is the Vaishya's duty of agriculture, cow protection or trade. Shalina, depending on that which is received without begging. Yayavar, begging in the paddy field for one's day's grain, for 1 day of grains. 1 day's grains, sorry guys. Shilochanam, collecting paddy left in the field or in shops of grain dealers. Note: a Brahmin is sometimes offered land and cows in charity, and thus for his livelihood he may act in the same way as a Vaishya, by cultivating land, protecting cows, and trading off his surpluses. A better process, however, is to pick up grains from a field shops. Emergency duties. Except in emergency, Lower persons should not accept the occupational duties of higher castes. In emergency, however, everyone but the kshatriya may accept the means of livelihood of others. That's interesting, huh? Only the kshatriyas can't do the duties of others. In emergency, one may accept the following professions: Rita, collecting grains from the field; Amrita, collecting without begging; Mrita, begging grains; Pramrita, tilling the ground; and Satyanmrita, trade. But one shouldn't accept the profession of dog, okay, which is to serve low-grade persons like Shudras. Brahman should be well acquainted with all Vedic knowledge, and Kshatriyas should be well acquainted with the worship of demigods. Okay, I'm going to skip these notes because it's just getting too long. The symptoms of a Brahman are mind control, sense control, austerity, cleanliness, satisfaction, forgiveness, simplicity, knowledge, mercy, complete surrender to Lord Achyuta, and truthfulness. These are all the symptoms of a Brahman. Achyutatmatvam. In the Varnashram institution, the symptoms of a Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, Brahmacāri, Grihastha, Vanaprastha, and Sannyasi are all described. The ultimate aim is Achyutatmatvam, to think always of the Supreme Lord Krishna or Vishnu. To advance in bhakti, one has to with the above-mentioned symptoms. Symptoms of a Kshatriya: bravery in battle, unconquerable, patience, challenging others, I guess, charitable, being charitable, controlling the bodily necessities, being forgiving, faithfulness to Brahminical principles, being always joyful, and being truthful. These are the symptoms of the Kshatriya. The symptoms of the Vaishya are devotion to demigods, the spiritual master and Lord Vishnu, endeavoring for advancement in Dharma, Artha, and Kama, believing in the words of the spiritual master in scripture, expertise in earning money. These are all the symptoms of a Vaishya. The symptoms of a Shudra: obedience to the higher three castes, cleanliness, service to a master without duplicity, doing sacrifices without uttering mantras, and not stealing, truthfulness, and protecting cows and Brahmins. Those are the symptoms of a Shudra. Kind of like the Shudra out of all those the most. Anyways. Workers or servants are generally accustomed to stealing, but a first-class servant is one who does not steal. Unless one is pure and has been raised to the standard of a Brahman, Kshatriya, or Vaishya, that is a Dvija, twice born, the chanting of mantras will not be fruitful. So now we are reading about the duties of a chaste wife, and then the duties of the mixed classes and results of occupational duties. All right. You like that word, huh? Dandavat pranams Madhavi Didi and Dandavat pranams Karkaraji. Hare Krishna. All right. So, where am I? What is it? Where? Okay. There it is. Strinam chapati devanam tachushrushanukulata tarbandhushvanuvrittischa nityam tadvratadharanam. To render service to the husband, to be always favorably disposed toward the husband, to be equally well disposed toward the husband's relatives and friends, and to follow the vows of the husband. These are the four principles to be followed by women described as chaste. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. It is very important for a peaceful householder life that a woman follow the vow of her husband. Any disagreement with the husband's vow will disrupt family life. In this regard, Chanakya Pandit gives a very valuable instruction. Dampatyo kalaho nasti tatra shri swayam agataha. When there are no fights between husband and wife, the goddess of fortune automatically comes to the home. A woman's education should be conducted along with the lines indicated in this verse. The basic principle for a chaste woman is to be always favorably disposed toward her husband. In Bhagavad Gita 140, it is said, Strishu dushtasu varshneya jayate varna sankara. If the women are polluted, there will be varna sankara population. In modern terms, the varna sankara are the hippies who do not follow any regulative injunctions. Another explanation is that when the population is varna sankar, no one can know who is on what platform. The varnashram system scientifically divides society into 4 varnas and 4 ashrams. But in varna sankar society, there are no such distinctions, and no one can know who is who. In such a society, no one can distinguish between a Brahman, a Kshatriya, a Vaishya, and a Shudra. For peace and happiness in the material world, the Varnashram institution the symptoms of one's need defined, and one must be educated accordingly. Then spiritual advancement will automatically be possible. Samarjanopale pabhyam grihamandana vartanai swayam cha mandita nityang parimrishta parichada kamar ucha vachai sadvi prashrayena damena cha vakyai satyai priyai premna kale kale bhajet patim. A chaste woman must dress nicely and decorate herself with golden ornaments for the pleasure of her husband. Always wearing clean and attractive garments, she should sweep and clean the household with water and other liquids so that the entire house is always pure and clean. She should collect the household paraphernalia and keep the house always aromatic with incense and flowers, and must be ready to execute the desires of her husband. Being modest and truthful, controlling her senses, and speaking in sweet words, a chaste woman should engage in the service of her husband with love according to time and circumstances. Santushta lolupa daksha dharmagya priya satyavak apramatta shuchi snigdha patim tvapatitam bhajet. A chaste woman should not be greedy, but satisfied in all circumstances. She must be very expert in handling household affairs and should be fully conversant with religious principles. She should speak pleasingly and truthfully, and should be very careful and always clean and pure. Thus, a chaste woman should engage with affection in the service of a husband who is not fallen. That's interesting. She should engage in the service of a husband who is not fallen. Purport. According to the injunction of Yajnavalkya, an authority on the religious principles, Ashuddhe sa pratiksho ki mahapataka dushita. One is considered contaminated by the reactions of great sinful activities when one is according to the methods of the Dashavida Sanskar. In Bhagavad Gita, however, the Lord says, Namam duskritino muda prapadyante naradhama. That's Bhagavad Gita 7:15. Those miscreants who do not surrender unto me are the lowest of mankind. The word naradhama means non-devotee. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also said, Je bhaje she boro abhakta hinachar. Anyone who is a devotee is sinless. One who is not a devotee, however, is the most fallen and condemned. It is recommended, therefore, that a chaste wife not associate with a fallen husband. A fallen husband is one who is addicted to the 4 principles of sinful activity, namely illicit sex, meat eating, gambling, and intoxication. Specifically, if one is not a soul surrendered to the of Godhead, he is understood to be contaminated. Thus, a chaste woman is advised not to agree to serve such a husband. It is not that a chaste woman should be like a slave while her husband is naradhama, the lowest. It is not that a chaste woman should be like a slave while her husband is naradhama, the lowest of men. Although the duties of a woman are different from those of a man, a chaste woman is not meant to serve a fallen husband. If her husband is fallen, it is recommended that she should give up his association. Giving up the association of her husband does not mean, however, that a woman should marry again and thus indulge in prostitution. If a chaste wife unfortunately marries a husband who is fallen, she should live separately from him. Similarly, a husband can separate himself from a woman who is not chaste according to the description of the Shastra. The conclusion is that a husband should be a pure Vaishnav and that a woman should be a chaste wife with all the symptoms described in this regard. Then both of them will be happy and make spiritual progress in Krishna consciousness. Yapatim haribhavena bhajet shir iva tatpara haryatmana harer loke patyashir iva modate. The woman who engages in the service of her husband, following strictly in the footsteps of the goddess of fortune, surely returns home back to Godhead with her devotee husband, and lives very happily in the Vaikuntha planets. Purport. The faithfulness of the goddess of fortune is the ideal for a chaste woman. The Brahma Samhita 5.29 says, Lakshmi Sahasra Shatasam Brahmasevyamanam. In the Vaikuntha planets, Lord Vishnu is worshipped by many, many thousands of goddesses of fortune. And in Goloka Vrindavan, Lord Krishna is worshipped by many, many thousands of gopis, all of whom are goddesses of fortune. A woman should serve her husband as faithfully as the goddess of fortune. A man should be an ideal servant of the Lord, and a woman should be an ideal wife like the goddess of fortune. Then both husband and wife will be so faithful and strong that by acting together, they will return home back to Godhead without a doubt. In this regard, Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam gives this opinion. Harir asmin stita iti strinam bhartari bhavana shishyanam cha guru nityam shudranam brahmanadishu vrityanam swamini tata haribhava udirita. 1 second. One second, I just need to write one thing. Not. Alright, sorry. Okay. A woman should think of her husband as the Supreme Lord. Similarly, a disciple should think of the spiritual master as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. A Shudra should think of a Brahman as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and a servant should think of his master as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. In this way, all of them will automatically become devotees of the Lord. In other words, by thinking this way, all of them will become Krishna conscious. I don't actually understand that. Interesting though. Vritti sankara jatinam tat kula krita bhavet achoranam apapanam antyajante vasayinam. Among the mixed classes known as sankar, those who are not thieves are known as ante vasayi or chandalas, dog eaters, and they also have their hereditary customs. Okay, so chandalas are not thieves. Purport. The four principal divisions of society, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, have been defined. Now there is a description of the Antyaja, the mixed classes. Among these classes, there are two divisions, Pratilomaja and Anulomaja. If a woman of a high caste marries a man of a lower caste, their union is called Pratilo. If a woman of a low caste, however, marries a man of a higher caste, their union is called Anulo. The members of such dynasties have their traditional duties as barbers, washermen, and so on. Among the Antyajas, those who are still somewhat pure in that they do not steal and they are not addicted to meat eating, drinking, illicit sex, and gambling, are called Antevasayi. Among people of the lower classes, intermarriage and the drinking of wine are allowed. For these people do not recognize such conduct as sinful among themselves. Prayasva bhava vihito nrinam dharma yuge yuge veda drigbhi smrito rajan pretacheha sasharma krit. Who keeps on searching me? Okay. My dear king, Brahmins, well conversant in Vedic knowledge, have given their verdicts that in every age, in every yuga, the conduct of different sections of people according to the material modes of nature is auspicious both in this life and after death. Purport. In Bhagavad Gita 3:35 it is said, Shreyan swadharma viguna para dharmat swanushtitat. It is far better to discharge one's prescribed duties, even though they may be faulty, than another's duties. The Antyajas, the men of the lower classes, are accustomed to stealing, drinking, and illicit sex, but that is not considered sinful. For example, if a tiger kills a man, this is not sinful, but if a man kills another man, this is considered sinful, and the killer is hanged. What is a daily affair among the animals is a sin. What is a daily affair among the animals is a sinful act in human society. Thus, according to the symptoms of higher and lower sections of society, there are different varieties of occupational duties. According to the experts in Vedic knowledge, these duties are prescribed in terms of the age concerned. That's always been a question I had. I always thought like people who know better, they would get a more heavy reaction. Like so if somebody eats meat but they don't know, like
I heard that about like the reactions for eating grains and stuff on Ekadasi.
Mm-hmm.
Like the reactions are greater for Brahmins and
Mm-hmm.
things like that.
Yeah,
Makes sense.
that would only really be fair. Otherwise, like okay. Vritya svabhavakritaya vartamana sakarmakrit hitva svabhavajan karma shanar nirgunatang iyat. If one acts in his profession according to his position in the modes of nature and gradually gives up these activities, he attains the nishkama stage. Purport. If one gradually gives up his hereditary customs and duties and tries to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his natural position, he is gradually able to become free from these activities, and he attains the stage of nishkam, freedom from material desires. One second. Okay, let me take it off of this. Upyamana muhukshetram swayam nirviryatam iyat na kalpate punas sutyai uptam bijam chanashyati eva kamashayam chetam kamanam atisevaya virajeta yata rajan agnivat kama bindubi. Put this back. Okay. My dear king, if an agricultural field is cultivated again and again, the power of its production decreases, and whatever seeds are sown there are lost. Just as drops of ghee on a fire never extinguish the fire, but a flood of ghee will. Similarly, overindulgence in lusty desires mitigates such desires entirely. Is that so? I guess I should just like overindulge big time, and then that will put out the fire, huh? Actually, that's kind of true, right? Like if you eat
too much ice cream,
you get really sick of ice cream. Yes, exactly. Purport. If one continuously sprinkles drops of ghee on a fire, the fire will not be extinguished. But if one suddenly puts a lump of ghee on a fire, the fire may possibly be extinguished entirely. Similarly, those who are not too sinful and have thus been born in the lower classes are allowed to enjoy sinful activities fully. Thus, there is a chance that these activities will become detestable to them, and they will get the opportunity to be purified. Yasya ya lakshanam proktam pungso varna bhivyanjakam yad anyatrapi drishyeta tatenaiva vinirdishet. If one shows the symptoms of being a Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra, as described above, even if he has appeared in a different class, he should be accepted according to those symptoms of classification. Purport. Herein it is clearly stated by Narad Muni that one should not be accepted as a Brahman, Kshatriya, or Shudra according to birth, for although this is going on now, it is not accepted by the Shastras. As stated in Bhagavad Gita 4.13, Chatur Vanya Maya Shishtam Guna Karma Vibhagasha. Thus, the four divisions of society, Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, and Shudra, are to be ascertained according to qualities and activities. If one was born in a Brahman family and has acquired the Brahminical qualifications, he is to be accepted as a Brahman. Otherwise, he should be considered a Brahma Bandhu. Similarly, if a Shudra acquires the qualities of a Brahman, although he was born in a Shudra family, he is not a Shudra. Because he has developed the qualities of a Brahman, he should be accepted as a Brahman. The Krishna consciousness movement is meant to develop these Brahminical qualities. Regardless of the community in which one was born, if one develops the qualities of a Brahman, he should be accepted as a Brahman, and then he may be offered the order of sannyas. Unless one is qualified in the Brahminical symptoms, one is sannyas, and designated a person for a Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya, or Shudra. Birth is not the essential symptom. This understanding is very important. Herein, Narad Muni distinctly says that one may be accepted according to the caste of his birth if he has the corresponding. One who has attained the qualifications of a Brahman, regardless of where he was born, should be accepted as a Brahman. Similarly, if one has developed the qualities of a Shudra or a Chandala, regardless of where he is born, he should be accepted in terms of those symptoms. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 7th canto, 11th chapter of the Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam, entitled The Perfect Society for Social Classes. Alright, so we're just going to read the first 10 verses of chapter 12, which are the duties of a brahmacāri. It's going to make me feel really guilty. Okay, 12. The Perfect Society for Spiritual Classes. This chapter particularly describes the brahmacāri and the person in the vanaprastha stage, and it also gives a general description of the four ashrams, brahmacārya, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas. In the previous chapter, the great Saint Narad Muni has described the Varna institution of society, and now in this chapter, he'll describe the stages of spiritual advancement in the four ashrams, which are known as brahmacārya, grihastha, vanaprastha, and sannyas. The brahmacāri should live under the care of the true spiritual master, giving him sincere respect and obeisances, acting as his menial servant, and always carrying out his order. The brahmacāri should engage himself in spiritual activities and study the Vedic literature under the direction of the spiritual master. According to the brahmacārya system, he should dress with a belt. A belt? That's cool. You might see me changing my dress a little bit. And deer skin and matted hair, and should bear a danda, water pot, and sacred thread. He should collect alms daily in the morning, and in the evening, whatever alms he has collected, he should offer to the spiritual master. A brahmacāri should accept prasad upon the order of the spiritual master. And if the spiritual master sometimes forgets to order the disciple to eat, the disciple should not take prasad on his own initiative. Rather, he should fast. Yikes. The brahmacāri should be trained to be satisfied with eating what is absolutely necessary. He should be very expert in executing responsibilities. He should be faithful, and he should control his senses and try to avoid the association of women as far as possible. A brahmacāri should very strictly abstain from living with women and should not meet with grihastas and those too addicted to women. Nor should a brahmacāri speak in a lonely place with a woman. After completing one's education as a brahmacāri in this way, one should give dakshina, an offering of gratitude to one's guru, and then one may leave for home and accept the next ashram, the grihastha ashram, or else one may continue in the brahmacāri ashram without adulteration. The duties for the grihastha ashram and brahmacāri ashram, as well as the duties for sannyasis, are prescribed in the shastras. A grihastha is not meant to enjoy sex life without restriction. Indeed, the whole purpose of Vedic life is to become free from sexual indulgence. All the ashrams are recognized for spiritual progress, and therefore, although the grihastha ashram gives a kind of license for sex life for a certain time, it does not allow unrestricted sex life. Therefore, in grihastha life also, there is no illicit sex. A grihastha should not accept a woman for sexual enjoyment. Wasting semen is also illicit sex. After the grihastha ashram is another ashram, known as vanaprastha, which is midway between grihastha and sannyas. A person in the vanaprastha order is restricted in eating food grains and forbidden to eat fruits that have not ripened on the tree. Nor should he cook food with fire, although he is allowed to eat charu, grains that have been offered in a sacrificial fire. Wow. Vanaprasthas have to become raw foodists. That's what it's saying here.
That's so interesting.
He may also eat fruits and grains that have grown naturally. Living in a thatched cottage, the Vanaprastha should endure all kinds of heat and cold. He should not cut his nails or hair, and he should give up cleaning his body and teeth. It's kind of gross. He should wear tree bark, accept a danda, and practice life in the forest, taking a vow to live there for 12 years, 8 years, 4 years, 2 years, or at least 1 year. At last, when because of old age he can no longer perform the activities of a vanaprastha, he should gradually stop everything and in this way give up his body. Wow, that's intense. Shri Narad Uvacha Brahmacāri Gurukule Vasandanta Gurur Hitam Acharan Dasavan Nicho Guru Sudridaso Hrida. Narad Muni said, a student should practice completely controlling his senses. He should be submissive and should have an attitude of firm friendship for the spiritual master. With a great vow, the brahmachari should live at the Gurukul, only for the benefit of the Guru. Sayam pratar upasita gurvan agnyarka surotamam sandhe ubhe chayatavag japan brahma samahita. At both junctions of day and night, namely in the early morning and in the evening, he should be fully absorbed in thoughts of the spiritual master, fire, the sun god, and Lord Vishnu by chanting the Gayatri Mantra. And by chanting the Gayatri Mantra, he should worship them. Chandang syadhi ita gurur ahutaschet suryantrita upakrame vasane cha charano shirasa namet. Being called by the spiritual master, the student should study the Vedic mantras regularly. Every day before beginning his studies and at the end of his studies, the disciple should respectfully offer obeisances unto the spiritual master. Mekala jinavang sangshi jata danda kamandalun bibriyad upavitam cha darba panir yatoditam. Carrying pure kusha grass in his hand, the brahmachari should dress regularly with a belt of straw and with deerskin garments. He should wear matted hair, carry a rod and water pot, and should be decorated with a sacred thread as recommended in the Shastras. Sayam prataschared bhaiksham guraveta nivedayat bhunjita yadyanud nocher upavaset kvachit. The brahmachari should go out morning and evening to collect alms, and he should offer all that he collects to the spiritual master. He should eat only if ordered to take food by the spiritual master. Otherwise, if the spiritual master does not give this order, he may sometimes have to fast. Sushilo mitabhog daksha shadadhano jitendriya yavarartam vyavaharet strishu stri nirjiteshu cha. Gurudev actually gave me a very strong order to become fat like Tirtha Maharaj.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, I keep almost checking on your beads and then being like, oh my god, this is too clean.
Did I just do that one? Yeah. Shushilomita bhog daksha shadadhano jitendriya yavad artam vivaharit stri shustri nirjiteshu cha. Anyways. Okay. A brahmachari should be quite well behaved and gentle, and should not eat or collect more than necessary. He must always be active and expert, fully believing in the instructions of the spiritual master and the Shastra. Fully controlling his senses, he should associate only as much as necessary with women or those controlled by women. Purport. A brahmachari should be very careful not to mix with women or with men addicted to women. Although when he goes out to beg alms, it is necessary to talk with women and with men very much attached to women, this association should be very short, and he should talk with them only about begging alms and not more. A brahmachari should be very careful in associating with men who are attached to women. So I'm still following. I came here begging for Wi-Fi.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're only seeking Bhagavatam.
Yes, exactly. Varjayet pramada agrihasto brihad vrata indriyani pramatini harantyapi yatermana. A brahmachari, or one who has not accepted the grihastha ashram, family life, must rigidly avoid talking with women or about women, for the senses are so powerful that they may agitate even the mind of a sannyasi, a member of the renounced order of life. Purport. Brahmacharya essentially means the vow not to marry, but to observe strict celibacy, brihad vrata. A brahmachari or sannyasi should avoid talking with women or reading literature concerning talks between man and woman. The injunction restricting association with women is the basic principle of spiritual life. Associating or talking with women is never advised in any of the Vedic literatures. The entire Vedic system teaches one to avoid sex life so that one may gradually progress from brahmacharya to grihastha, from grihastha to vanaprastha, and from vanaprastha to sannyas, and thus give up material enjoyment, which is the original cause of bondage to this material world. The word brihad vrata refers to one who has decided not to marry, or in other words, not to indulge in sex life throughout his entire life. Kesha prasadhanonmarda snapanabhyanjanadikam gurustribir yuvatibhi karayen natmano yuva. If the wife of the spiritual master is young, a young brahmachari should not allow her to care for his hair, massage his body with oil, or bathe him with affection like a mother. I would hope not. Purport. The relationship between the student or disciple and the wife of the spiritual master or teacher is like that between son and mother. A mother sometimes cares for his son by combing his hair, massaging his body with oil, or bathing him. Similarly, the wife or the teacher is also a mother, guru patni, and therefore she may also care for the disciple in a motherly way. If the wife of the teacher is a young woman, however, a young brahmachari should not allow such a mother to touch him. This is strictly prohibited. There are 7 kinds of mothers: Atma Mata Gurur Patni, Brahmani Rajapatnika, Dhenur Dhatri Tata Prithvi, Saptaita Matara Smrita. These mothers are the original mother. These mothers are the original mother, the wife of the teacher or spiritual master, the wife of a Brahman, the king's wife, the cow, the nurse, and the earth. Unnecessary association with women, even with one's mother, sister, or daughter, is strictly prohibited. This is human civilization. A civilization that allows men to mix unrestrictedly with women is an animal civilization. In Kali Yuga, people are extremely liberal, but mixing with women and talking with them as equals actually constitutes an uncivilized way of life. Nanvagni pramada nama gritta kumbha samapuman sutam api raho jahyad anyada yavadartakrit. Woman is compared to fire, and man is compared to a butter pot. Therefore, a man should avoid associating even with his own daughter in a secluded place. Similarly, he should also avoid association with other women. One should associate with women only for important business and not otherwise. Purport. If a butter pot and fire are kept together, the butter within the pot will certainly melt. Woman is compared to fire, and man is compared to a butter pot. However advanced one may be in restraining the senses, it is almost impossible for a man to keep himself controlled in the presence of a woman, even if she is his own daughter, mother, or sister. Indeed, his mind is agitated even if one is in the renounced order of life. Therefore, Vedic civilization carefully restricts mingling between man and women. If one cannot understand the basic principle of restraining association between man and woman, he is to be considered an animal. That is the purport of this verse. Kalpayitvatmana yavad abhasam idam ishvara dvaitam tavan naviramet tato hyasya viparyaya. As long as a living entity is not completely self-realized, as long as he is not independent of the misconception of identifying with his body, which is nothing but a reflection of the original body and senses. He cannot be relieved of the conception of of the conception of duality, which is epitomized by the duality between man and woman. Thus, there is every chance that he will fall down because his intelligence is bewildered. Purport. Here is another important warning that a man must save himself from attraction to women. Until one is self-realized, fully independent of the illusory conception of the material body, the duality of man and woman must undoubtedly continue. But when one is actually self-realized, this distinction ceases. Vidya vinaya sampane brahmane gabihastini shuni chaiva supakecha pandita samadarshina. The humble sage, by virtue of true knowledge, sees with equal vision a learned and gentle Brahman, a cow, an elephant, a dog, and a dog-eater, outcast. It's Bhagavad Gita 5.18. On the not only gives up the duality of woman, but also gives up the duality of man and animal. This is the test of self-realization. One must realize perfectly that the living being is spirit soul, but is tasting types of material bodies. One may theoretically understand this, but when one has practical realization, then he actually becomes a pundit, one who knows. Until that time, the duality continues, and the conception of man and woman also continues. In this stage, one should be extremely careful about mixing with women. No one should think himself perfect and forget the Shastra conjunction that one should be very careful about associating even with his own daughter, mother, or sister, not to speak of other women. Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam cites the following shlokas in this regard. Bahutvenaiva vastunam yatartha jnanam uchyate advaita jnanam ittetad dvaita jnanam taranyata. Yata jnanam tata vastu, yata vastus tata mati, naiva jnanartayor bhedas tatta ekatva vedanam. Unity in variety is real knowledge, and therefore giving up variety artificially does not reflect perfect knowledge of monism. According to the Achinta Bheda Bheda philosophy of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there are varieties, but all of them constitute one unit. Such knowledge is knowledge of perfect oneness. Okay, well, we still have 4 minutes, but I'm just going to end now. Yeah, just because. So tomorrow we will finish reading more. What is it? Let's see what tomorrow's reading is. We're going to read oops, 1 second. Okay, so we're going to read further details of the brahmacāri ashram, and then the results of practicing vanaprastha, the general duties of a vanaprastha, and the rules for giving up the body for a vanaprastha. That will be tomorrow. I'm traveling to LA tomorrow, but I think I'll be able to make time for this. I'll let you know beforehand, though, if for some reason I'm not able to do it. And then the next chapter is the qualities of a sannyasi, and then conversation between Prahlad and an Avadut Brahman. That's tomorrow. That's the day after tomorrow. All right. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Nitai Gaur Hari Bol. Actually, this time, never mind. Jai Shri Guru Gauranga Gandharvika Giridhari Shri Radha Vinod Bihari Ju ki jai. Shri Govinda Gopinath Maran Mohan Ju ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatarashatashmad Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Maharaj Srila Gurudev ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatarashatashmad Srila Bhaktivedanta Vaman Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatarashatashmad Srila Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatarashatashmad Srila Bhakti Pragyan Keshav Goswami Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Pravishtam Vishnupad Ashatarashatashmad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Mahabhagavat Srila Goksharas Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Srila Satchidananda Bhakti Vinod Thakur ki jai. Nitil Pravishta Vaishnav Sarvabhauma Srila Jagannath Das Babaji Maharaj ki jai. Shri Rupanu Gauriya Guru Varga ki jai. Shri Rup Sanatan Bhatta Raghunath Shri Jeev Gopal Patadasha Guna Shara Goswami Prabhu ki jai. Shri Sarup Damodar Rai Ramanandari Shri Gaur Parshad Vrinda ki jai. Namachay Shri Haridas Thakur ki jai. प्रेम से कहो श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासरी गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। श्री क्षेत्र मंडल गौर मंडल व्रज मंडल मथुरा वृंदावन धाम की जय। सर्व अभिष्ट प्रदत्त गिरिराज महाराज की जय। श्री राधा कुंड श्यामा कुंड की जय। श्री यमुना देवी गंगा देवी की जय। श्री तुलसी महारानी वृंद देवी की जय। श्री भक्ति देवी की जय। श्री पूर्णमासी योगमाया की जय। श्री गोपेश्वर महादेव की जय। श्री हरिनाम संकीर्तन की जय। अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय। श्री नारहरि सरकार की जय। तदीय शुभ तिरुभाव तिथि की जय। श्री उत्पन्न एकादशी तिथि की जय। तिथि पालन करी भक्त वृंद की जय। समागत गौर भक्त वृंद की जय। ग्रंथराज श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय। श्री निताय गौर प्रेमानंदे हरि हरि बोल। वृंदाय तुलसी देवाय प्रियाय केशवाय कृष्ण भक्ति प्रद देवी सत्यवताय नमो नमः। वंशा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। Dandavat pranams. Okay, Rukmanjari, I won't dress that way. I won't wear a belt. I promise. Okay. All right, Dandavat pranams, everybody. See you all tomorrow when I'm in LA. Jai